Yo, Natsu here. Welcome back to What If Deku Had Read Part 5. In the last part, I ended it quite abruptly. After Deku having his arm disintegrated and yet being able to block it with red, and him getting blue from the Nomu. So, I'm gonna start by explaining a bit what happened with his arm. Red is quite literally the power of fire, lightning, and void, which comprise destruction, erosion, as well as basically all types of darkness. He cannot use that darkness against itself, it is more like something that binds the fire and the lightning together. It still allows him to resist some of the effects, example, Shigaraki's decay, is partially defended against. He still needs to put red on that spot, but it still blocks it, which Deku was lucky as fuck, because he would have lost an arm. Well, more than an arm. He would have just died, probably. So yeah, he was lucky for that. And Shiki was probably surprised a lot. For the blue, red is not the only color that exists. Every color that exists is based on elements. Multiple colors can have the same elements but different mixes of them. Example, orange. Compared to red, which has lightning and fire, orange has other elements, lightning and earth. So, that way, they do encroach on each other's elements, but they're not the exact same. The blue that Deku just got was something that the Nomu's original body had already on top of his normal quirks and blah blah blah, but was never used. So when the body was modified by All for One to make it a Nomu, that blue stayed inside. And Deku basically burned away everything the Nomu had, absorbing as much of it as possible. All the life force, all of the flesh, everything. Which comprised blue as well. Now, the Nomu didn't have a lot, and even through that, Deku didn't get even all of the Nomu's amount. If you were to count the amount of blue Deku has currently, think of a drop of water, and it's not that much. The attributes of blue, though, will allow it to just grow over time, thankfully. It has the elements of water and ice, as well as the attribute Azure, which is basically calmness, control. So, as long as he stay in cold places, or in a lot of water, or in places with ice, his body will slowly build it up. Of course, it's gonna take a while for him to be able to use it fully, but still, Deku just learned that what he has in him isn't unique and might not be a quirk. Because the Nomu had it, and from what Deku knows, he didn't get the other quirks the Nomu had. So, let's pick back up about a day later. Deku is in his room trying to understand what is that new energy inside of him. First thing he tried was to move it around, which he felt didn't have that much. Like I said, it's basically a drop of water in his body. In contrast, the current amount of red he has would be akin to a pool. So, you can see the huge amount of difference between the two that he has. And even then, sometimes he thinks he doesn't have enough red. Also, as he grows stronger, he's going to be able to move more red around and keep having problems with that, but he has almost no blue to his name. So, Deku started to try and experiment a bit. Firstly, he tried to move it around, as I said, which, nah, because it's an extremely small amount, it's similar to how his red was at first. Doesn't really do much. He can move it, but it's barely if it comes out of the spot where it is. Next thing he tries is to see if he can drag some of the blue out with his red. Or mix it with his red. Which neither of them works. The red can move around it and move it around, but not too much. And fusing it together doesn't do shit. In itself, each color is its own thing. They cannot merge together. They cannot be mixed fully. If you were to have orange, red, blue, green, yellow, all that, and try to mix them all into a single ball and then forcefully mix them, all you'd have is a ball that has all of the colors just swirling around. It wouldn't turn black or mix two colors like blue and red to make purple. It's just the two colors separate constantly. You can use both in an attack, but once again, it's gonna stay red and blue. And as he tries to do it, he does notice that it's not going anywhere. So, he tries to understand the feeling. The feeling is cold, so he tries to see with ice, water, other things like the wind. And it doesn't really do much. It does increase from the cold, from the ice and the water, but he does feel that it's gonna take a while. And he can understand that quite quickly because his red didn't appear overnight. He understood that from the moment he was born he had it, and it took him still until he was 8 to be able to move it around. So, first things he does after that is basically always has something like an ice pack or water with him that he slowly kind of tries to bring in to increase the blue. So, constantly having an ice pack in his hand, which Aizawa does allow him, well, will allow him, I should say, because he hasn't explained that yet. It's just the next day. But yeah, once they are to go back to school after the incident, first thing they ask is if Deku is okay, because he did just kill a monster, which did seem human, partially, except for mentally. So, Deku explained that he does feel okay, but does have something weird that happened. To not kind of force some of the subjects, he said that he might have absorbed something from the Nomu that might have evolved his quirk a bit or changed it. They ask what he means, and he explained that while he was absorbing the Nomu, um, he felt as if some of the energy was different and, simply put, became different. He showed by being able to bring out such a small amount of it around his finger to create a small blue glow instead of his normal red, which he explains is much more cold compared to what his red does, basically putting it akin to ice compared to the fire of his red. Aizawa kind of understands what he means. Basically, when he absorbed the Nomu by destroying it, which was kind of the only way he could have done anything to save everyone at that point, so they don't blame him for that. Anyway, it was a monster, so he doesn't get put under killing a human. But maybe because of the sheer amount of life force it had from the regeneration, it might have just kind of changed some of the energy in Deku, or at least that's what Aiza was thinking for a while. After Deku explains that compared to his red, which grows with lightning, fire, and heat, this one grows from cold, ice, and water, Aizawa just think that it basically turned to its opposite and just stayed in Deku anyways. So he just tells him to try and train that as well, since it seemed his quirk just grew. Sorry. So after all that, the normal school activities go. Talking about the sports festival. Then saying they'll have 1 week to train. Or was it 2 weeks? Jesus Christ, I have to watch those seasons. Yeah, last time I watched season 3 and 4. I think I watched part of 5. Anyway, I have to rewatch it. I do know the main story for later on. Like, still. Give me a second. Sorry, I don't know if you were able to hear it, but there was a noise that was bothering me. So, yes. The training before the sports festival. Deku decided to try and ask help from one of his classmates, which doesn't really speak a lot. A red and white haired boy. Shoto. Basically, Deku wanted to ask him about, well, his quirk, heat and cold, which Shoto didn't really want to speak about it, saying that he's not going to speak about his father's quirk, basically freezing a bit the air around him in anger. With Deku just saying, sorry. Yes. Deku basically tried to calm him down, saying that it's just that his quirk changed, and now with the heat powers he has of red, he has cold powers as well, and just wanted to ask Shoto how he uses his cold. Shoto was still annoyed. Wait, did I say Shigi? Jesus Christ. Anyway, basically Shoto was still annoyed by that, but seeing that Deku truly just wanted to ask about cold and stuff like that, he asks Deku what his cold does for now. And Deku basically explains that his red normally has the power of fire and lightning, and he grows that energy by absorbing either of them, or by burning something and absorbing the life force in it. That's what he did with the Nomu. He then explained that while doing that, he gained another power, which is, from what Aizawa thinks, just that from the sheer amount of it that he was using, basically pushing out the red from his body, it kind of created a space of cold that turned into the other one instead, which Deku is almost certain isn't that, so he just says that's what Aizawa thinks. Basically, Shoto asks him what does he want then, for him to just freeze him over and over again? In a condescending way, kind of. An actual question, but just not gently said. Let's just say it like that. Where Deku just explains that he just wants to know how he controls his cold in particular, because Deku's never done that before. And Shoto just says that he freezes things. He controls the ice, basically, that he makes, while making sure he doesn't use his father's quirk. Which doesn't help Deku at all. The conversation doesn't go that far, but it does give a small link between Deku and Shoto that's more than just their classmate. Deku asked him about stuff and tried to get help from him, which did give Shoto a bit of an incentive to listen to Deku more later on. So, Deku basically started to train by, simply put, going to the beach and just staying in the water. Like, he was just floating around trying to absorb the energy that would make his blue grow, which he does see that when he concentrates on trying to absorb energy, his blue does seem to grow faster, even though he doesn't actually absorb water. So he tries to do that as well. Basically, try to see if he can control the water around him using blue, which is extremely hard since the amount of blue he has is small. But he is able to kind of absorb some of the water, though hardly, I would say. So over time, Deku just kind of keeps doing that over and over and over again, while also trying to control his red underwater, to just kind of increase his capacity with it. The total amount of blue he grew during the training period was by about 10 times, which some would say, oh, that's a lot, but no. Remember that his energies don't grow. How do you say it? Give me a second, I'm looking for a word. Found it. His energies don't grow exponentially. They do grow faster over time, but that's from him being able to absorb more thanks to him increasing the amount of power itself. But it's not increasing in itself thanks to just lazying around. The more he has doesn't mean it's gonna grow faster. So those 10 extra drops he got from it are basically just a drop in the bucket once again. As he's gonna get more, his growth will stay small unless he finds actual ways to massively boost it. So he has to control all that while trying to understand how to absorb more. And he won't really be able to use blue in in the training arc, not in the sports festival. Oh yeah, he also did train One for All partially during that time, but it's less consequential since he wasn't actively on that. He was trying to see what he could do with blue. So, the sports festival. Let's start with the first event, which is the run. Sorry that I keep stopping. There's seriously noise that bother me, and I'm not sure if you hear them, so when they start, I'm trying to pause so that you don't hear them. If I look at the recording and that there's no sound, next time I do a video, I won't bother with that. So, first event. Deku has better control over One for All as well as his red, so hearing that he's gonna have to run against the others doesn't really make him afraid, where in canon he was kind of still a bit unsure since he couldn't use One for All. So, as they're about to start, sorry, I was burping. So, as they're about to start, Deku's starting to prepare himself. Firstly, he looks at Shoto, because he is wondering how to maybe approach the subject of asking Shoto how to help him grow his quirk, his blue, by asking him to freeze him over and over and over again, which Shoto did say as a joke, but, unseriously, I should say more. And Deku's actually thinking that, it might be a good way of doing it faster. Since, compared to his red, he doesn't have a lot. So, the countdown starts for them to start running, and Deku pushes some red as well as One for All in his leg. Not to a point where it's gonna hurt him in itself, but basically he's gonna jump with One for All and then push himself forward with red afterward. Kind of like rocket boots. So, 3, 2, 1, 0, and Shoto freezes the ground. But right before he does that, Deku's already running. Well, jumping, I should say. Which, people were more surprised by Deku's strong departure, and didn't realize that fast that they were frozen to the spot until they basically tried to start running and almost fell down. So, Shoto's running, trying to catch up to Deku, and Deku's already past the point of the 0-pointer, literally just went straight under it. Well, under one of them. I think there's more than one. Anyway, he didn't do anything to it. He just went running past it. Not too much of a problem. While Shoto froze it over. Next person right behind Shoto is Bakugo, who just blew himself out of the ice, helping others get out of it by accident. Basically screaming that Deku won't be winning, he's gonna be the one in first place. pushing himself forward with his explosions. Deku's just too far ahead, though, so doesn't really do much. As they are basically trying to run after Deku, Deku just straight up jump over the area of rope instead of trying to move ahead with one rope or just making a passage. He literally just jumped over it. Didn't even bother with anything. Currently, the problem is that Deku's got too much on his mind. He understands he's in a competition, so he does try his best. But the thing he has on his mind currently is just how to use his blue, how to ask Shoto for help training his blue, and trying to understand what it is. Because every time he was in class, he was trying to feel something that he had felt before. When he was fighting the Nomu, he felt something about the Nomu that he just thought was his quirk. Well, quirks, similar to how he feels other people's quirk when they're close enough to them. But he understood that he might have been feeling something else as well. Not just the quirks. Quirks have a feeling, or I should say, he feels something similar to how a quirk affects things. So like, Mina kind of eroding, acidic, Bakugo burning, hot-headed, explosive, stuff like that. But he remembered that one of the feelings he felt from the Nomu, he felt it from someone in his class, but he couldn't pinpoint who. He wasn't around them when they were all using his quirk. He knew it's not Bakugo, at least. When he was close to Shoto, he also noticed it wasn't him. But he wasn't around the others using their quirks enough for him to remember exactly who was the other one who felt weird. And yes, what I'm saying is that someone in his class has a color. They just don't know it. And he doesn't know who yet. So he's just thinking of that while he's running forward. He arrives in the area with all of the mines and doesn't really think of anything and just keeps jumping over it. Running forward, jumps to make sure he doesn't hit a mine, continues running, jumps over. He's basically almost done, and the closest person behind him is like a quarter of the way behind him. He's just going way too fast. Even Bakugo's not understanding what's in Deku's mind currently. He doesn't even seem to be realizing he's going that fast. Deku's just using one for all at the most he can, using red to just protect himself, and kind of just going forward. He arrives at the ending, gets the most point, and that's when he realized that, oh, everyone's just so far away behind him. The teachers someone asked him, so how do you feel for being in the first place? And how were you feeling while running? And Deku just says he doesn't really know, because he wasn't actually thinking that much about the race, he was just going forward. Which, a few heroes just thought that he was being cocky, but no. He truly didn't really think much about the race. He was in his head thinking of other things. Which makes it sound even worse, actually, now that I think of it. But still, he seriously didn't realize anything. So, as the other ones arrive behind him, Bakugo, then Shoto, then same people as usual. So, I'm gonna end it here, because seriously, those sounds are bothering me. I don't know if you can hear them, but I'm going insane because of them. I should have already been done with the second event, but I keep stalling because of the sounds. Anyway, hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. And in 2 days, I'm gonna post another video. And 2 days after that as well, I'm going to post another one. Because I have a week's vacation from work, so I'm gonna use it to make a few videos. Hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. Natsu, out.